Hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? Happy Tuesday. We switched our stream time. Couple reasons for it. I know we've been talking about it on the past few streams. But I think this will make it easier for folks in European or the GMT plus or minus time zone easier to attend. So hi. But I think it'll also work because when I was streaming on Friday, that would basically put it on GMT time zones like evenings, which Friday evenings are not easy for anyone really. So that was part of the reason for shifting it, and then moving it earlier in the day I think is going to work easier for me. But then same for folks on GMT. I think it'll make it a little bit earlier in the day for them. And we were already doing it midday in the US anyways, so I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. But either way, I think we're going to give Tuesdays shots for a while and see how that goes. Now that we got that out of the way, though, today we are going to be looking at the video HTML element through a package called React Player, I think it was. And I would kind of like to get into the audio tracks part of it as well, the WebVTT. Part of the reason is because these videos, I would like to do transcripts and put that up on my website. And ideally that'll make it a little bit more searchable and easier to, if only for myself, be able to like search the back catalog. And I've off and on done some transcription production through a API/company called Deepgram. So that we might end up pulling that in, and I might end up doing that again as I shift around my workflow after we've now switched to YouTube. But that's what we're going to play with today. And I think in the future we're gonna, or maybe next stream and in the near future, we're gonna start getting back into Rust stuff and Tori stuff and doing a combination of that. But today, WebVTT and the video element. So I got my personal website here. We're gonna go ahead and just start up the watch script here. And that should give us, I think I've got it on, yep, there we go. So I think we're gonna end up basically just having a page. We're just gonna start with like a hard-coded page, and we'll just roll with that for the moment. And we are on the latest. We fixed this on the last stream, I think it was. I ended up doing a couple more tweaks because we missed when we were setting up the classes. The expectation with Tailwind is to have it default to mobile first. And we were setting small, medium, large. So my swap was to set a default and then medium, large, XL. Hey, how's it going? Nice to see you. Thank you. So, I think we got that fixed. It's at least fixed enough now that I can be okay with what it looks like. And then what we want to pull in today is, let's go to React Player. Good to see you. The that up there, WebGL in physics, which is kind of fun. And if you do, assuming I didn't break it, I think if you do !drop in the chat, we'll see some things. Feel free to give that a shot. Quiche is it quiche? I don't know that I've ever actually asked you how to pronounce it. We work together though. So React Player, it is newly, oh no, I guess not newly. When I started looking at it, it was newly on V2. But what we can do is we can give it a URL, and it will pull in. It'll pull in like a video embed. I don't think it uses the embed from YouTube, because YouTube has like their own embed thing. Yeah, we've got a bunch of options. YouTube. Not that I'm going to use any of the other ones really. Probably just YouTube. But the fact that it does the video element and then it does the tracks, that's the thing. Plus, I'm using Preact already, so it being a React component is convenient. Oh, so it does use the iframe player API. Okay. But we can give it tracks, and that is partly what I'm interested in, because I think we can potentially do some interesting integrations here, because if we have this file, I could not only add tracks to the video embedded in the page, but I could also potentially have transcript text and kind of have that follow along with the actual video and on the site. Okay, let's go ahead and get this added. Let's go ahead and stop npm add React player. That was weird. React player wouldn't let me backspace. And we can go ahead and bump this up a little bit. npm. The word wrap is getting kind of funky in there. So this is in WSL. You're running through Windows Terminal, which is I think now the default terminal on Windows. And the terminal, that's the terminal, and the shell is through WSL2. So we're running with Ubuntu 20, I believe now. Yep, Ubuntu 20. And that's just because the expectation here with Toast is that. Do you have anything on setting up WSL on Windows? No. As far as videos or whatnot, no, I don't. But that's kind of high on my priority list. I've got. We'll take a slight a slight distraction here. I've got on my website this Chez Moi, which is French, I believe, or French or Spanish? I think they say it on their website. Chez Moi. They blah 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 blah. I thought they said it on here. It stands for like house or something like that. I know that they have it in here somewhere. But anyways, give this a read. I can well, I'm not gonna drop this link in the channel, but so the value of that is that the value of Chez Moi is when you have dot files. Your dot files tend to be slightly different per OS. And I have a Mac right over there that I use with some frequency. I work in Windows natively and in WSL. That's 3 OSs. It's kind of a pain to manage dot files for 3 different OSs. So with Chez Moi, you can. It's built on top of Go, and it's got. There's a within Go, if you're unfamiliar, they've had like their own like templating syntax, which is very close to like nunchucks, if you're familiar with that. And it lets you basically write your dot files with templating built in, and like per OS, so you can have switches within your .files per OS, or you can have completely different files per OS, and the location where they're saved can be different, which is really nice because I can use new shell in Windows Native, and coming back around to why I haven't actually put up a video for this at all yet. I need to finish it up. I can have the exact same new shell set up in WSL and on my Mac. So right now I've got Chamois set up, and I've got some of the stuff syncing through some aliases and whatnot. But I haven't gone through all the effort to set up new shell on all of the places, which is why I haven't gotten around to making a video on it yet. But that's I want to do a video on just general Windows setup, and then I think the next step off of that is going to be cross OS, because I kind of feel like as a Windows dev, that may be doing development on Windows might be a first step. Like that might be a inroad for a new programmer, because Windows tends to be, I mean, their share of the market is just generally much larger, so that's a much more statistically likely inroad than somebody with a Mac. But after you've been doing it a while, you end up having to learn all of the OSs, because a lot of the software, it's starting to change, mind you. But at least when I was learning, like a decade ago or whatnot, none of the software was done for Windows. So I had to know how it worked on Mac and Linux, so I could also make it work for Windows. So by me developing at Windows, it meant I ended up learning all three OSs. Yeah, I do really like that sentiment. Being able to write code no matter where and what OS I'm in. And that especially helps with when I'm mentoring or helping or working with clients. Having that familiarity with every OS. I mean, my previous client, we were supporting people that were working with .NET, which is Windows. But then we were also supporting people that were working on front end that were all primarily Mac. So being able to just jump between all of them can be really beneficial depending on the work that you're doing. So Chamois, video will eventually come. I'm not going to give any timelines because I'm probably not going to hit them. But soon, we're working up into it. And the other thing was new shell, which it is what is there, new shell.sh, I think it is. So there's terminals and there's shells. Terminal is like kind of the program or the thing that's running it. A shell is the within that window, the thing that you're using to run it. Bash and ZSH and Fish, PowerShell, those are all pretty common shells. New shell it's a heck of a tagline. And I started using it a while ago, and it's gotten much better over the months, and I guess it's probably more than a year that I've been using it, to the point where now I think it has enough support where I can daily drive it on my Mac as well. I was daily driving it on my Windows because PowerShell and command prompt weren't great as it were. But it wasn't enough of a pain on my Mac because it had, I think it had ZSH. I think it was using ZH8, right? Whatever the default on M1 Macs are, I just started using it and just never bothered to change it. This is far enough now that I feel like I could daily drive it on my Mac and not feel like I was missing out on anything. But on top of that, which I don't have hooked, so I don't have new shell in WSL right now, and I don't have the command prompt, so that's the other piece of it. So when the video comes out, I'm gonna end up going through like all three of these things. A prompt is the thing that shows when you're typing. So terminal is sort of the box, shell is sort of the stuff running inside of it, and the prompt is elements like along your command line that give you information. So the native Windows integration that I have, that's probably the most configured that I have of all of my 3 operating systems. So that's in Windows Terminal with the terminal is Windows Terminal. Not a great naming scheme, but the shell is new shell, and the command prompt is Starship right here. And you can write custom things like here. My stream overlay is using npm version 8 and Node version 16. Pretty nifty. The package JSON is on 0. I'm not really. Stream elements, you are slow. I was wondering where that. I thought maybe they were down. Interesting. Stream elements about running. I wonder if they were down. Maybe they had an outage or something. So anyways, when I finally finish getting all of this set up on all my operating systems, then I'll make a couple of videos on it. But that is probably going to be that's very high on my priority list. All right, back to React Player. We got it installed. Just close. We are going to just add a page in here for now, and then we can template it out later. They're effectively the same as far as what we have implemented here is Toast. Toast.dev, and the way I have it set up is scroll uses. Am I importing them all? No. So recipes and recipe component. Okay. So everything in pages is a single page, and then I've got a components. I don't love that. I should probably reorganize that a little bit now that I'm looking at it. But this recipe component is effectively like a template. So I think what I would change about that would probably be to make that a little bit clearer, considering it's my own site and I didn't know that offhand. So we can eventually templatize this, since this video and the video player are going to be used for, theoretically I could post every video on my site that I've done. But I think we're just going to start out with just a page right now, and we will move it into a template after the fact. We're just going to call it video.js. Yeah, and that's a good point. Quiche, is that if you are one that uses VS Code, you can set up VS Code with Cloud Sync, and that can connect to effectively any operating system. I think Code Sandbox uses a like vendored version of. What do they use? Was it VS Code that they're using like a vendored version of? And I actually, for a year or maybe a year and a half, probably like, when was that? 2017, something like that. There was a project that I was working on that was primarily front end, and I strictly used Code Sandbox and a Chromebook. Wasn't the best experience, but it's workable. And writing code on phone or tablets. They've also have GitHub has their like built-in, what is it now? Code names are hard, right? If you go to GitHub and just any repository, or we can go to this one. I don't know if it'll work here, but if you hit the period button, it just jumps right into. I don't think you need to turn it on. It jumps right into code spaces. That's the word. So that's also an alternative. There's a lot of options. I use VS Code because I like it, but also because it's nice to work with clients and teach from, because it's a rather common IDE now. And you can kind of have very similar setups or recommend similar setups via their extensions in like the VS Code files. So I think there's value in that. And then that ends up in what you're mentioning here, Keish, is you can end up using that across local via the VS Code server and code spaces, and have that all synced, and across computers, operating systems. It's pretty nice. You can have a pretty nice setup. All right, what do we got here? Do we want any of this? I don't know that I really need any of this right now. We're gonna just try to start out. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Fix my posture. Fat fingering all the keys. So I don't know if that's actually going to, I think I need to hook that up. Let's just double check. Okay, no, it did. So there's sort of two pieces to how I have it set up with Toast. You add in the pages, and right now it's just running through all the pages and creating an actual like HTML page for each file within the pages directory. But then on top of that, you can basically set the props. So right now we're not going to have any props. So if we did something like JSON.stringify props. I always forget which order it is. So it's value, replacer, space. So we don't want to replace anything, and we want to give it a space of 2. So what that pre-tag is going to do is it's not going to apply any formatting, and the JSON stringify is going to stringify a JSON object, and it's going to format it nicely with the replacer, the null replacer, and the spacing of 2. That's a nice way to just look at all of the values within HTML. You can also like console.logout, which I'll do sometimes too. That ends up effectively not being rendered, but you do see that in the logs. So those are two ways that I've personally found to check out what the components are, or check out what the values coming or the props are. In this case, we've got all of the when we make a conversion from MDX into effectively markdown through to HTML, we need to have a mapping. So all of this is our mapping. If we have an H1 in the markdown processed, we actually want to use this component. All right, let's get React player rolling here. I don't want to use class components on this specific page. They have another one we can copy and paste. Dare I? Dare I copy this? Probably am fine lazy loading actually. We'll give that a shot. Anybody taking bets on what that URL points to? I have some guesses. I have some guesses. Oh, I should probably make this a little bit bigger. Plus plus. Yeah. All right, what do we got? Directory import. Not supported. We might need to do a rebuild. So I've got a watcher set up right now, and this watcher is built with a library called Affection. This is V2 of Affection, I believe. Where did I put it? Scripts. And that uses structured concurrency. And what I can do is, with a little bit more, I mean, I've got a little bit more boilerplate in here than I probably need at this point. Try not to cough into the mic there. I set this up a while ago. The idea though is that I can run multiple commands in parallel. So I've got a watch command for my CSS, and I have a watch command, or I got a watch command for my CSS. I have a library called serve that's acting as a dev server, and my file watcher is watching for file changes. It's just running toast build every time. It's with some of my things that I'm fetching cached. Builds pretty fast. So I don't, and that's on Windows. That builds slower. It's actually something like milliseconds, I think, on Linux and Macs. And it's basically just rebuilding it every time. So when there's not a difference between like the dev server and the built output, which is nice. So this error we will be getting both in dev mode and in like production mode. Like they're effectively the same. So did you mean to import React? Yeah. Okay. So in this setup, we are actually doing pretty close to as, oh my. I don't know what the period was in there. We're doing pretty close to, what is it? I don't know that we can say it's purely ESM, but it's like the browser module setup. There's, oh my. Preact render string. Okay, we got some things to look at. Here, object is not a valid HTML tag. Got it. I need to play around with the imports a little bit here. Okay. This is, I think, technically going to be lazy, and I might actually need to ES install this ahead of time. But the idea was, part of what Toast is doing is using the built-in, I think it's now in all the Evergreen browsers, but using the module syntax. Oop, it wasn't scrolling to the bottom. All right, what do we got? Object is not a valid HTML tag. do we need to bundle it? So we are bundling React Helmet, Preact, Big.js. We might need to. Single player imports and adds lazy loading players. If you only ever use one type, use imports such as React Player, YouTube to reduce the bundle size. That's nice. I wonder, I feel like there's probably some combination of these two that you could do. I suspect though that I'm going to need to add it to this. So let's do React Player / YouTube. And we are going to do the same here. And what this is doing, very similar to other methods to bundle elements into things that can be served on the web. This is relying on ES install to effectively vendor these libraries. So that's taking these libraries and putting them into things that can be imported. So when we look at our public directory, we have like a .js for each page here. And then we have a web modules folder, and that's how each of these is not actually bundling in all of the things. It is I actually don't see any component requires or anything. It's potentially in the upper stuff. It could be look at the about.html. We are doing this with a dynamic import. So like we're already doing lazy loading and whatnot. So I don't think it's going to be a big deal. It's a different way to handle it. So you can set up a lazy load like with the expectation that everything's being synchronous. You can set up an element to be, or a library to be lazy loaded. But when everything is already in modules, I think that ends up effectively kind of being built into it. Let's give this a shot again. And I'm familiar enough to understand it, but I'm not familiar enough with how either of these things, or how React Player is implemented to go any further into it, but cannot find module. Node modules, React Player, YouTube. And with whoop, I've been doing too much TypeScript. With that, there's the expectation that your imports are actually going to have exact paths. We don't have a bundler doing the magic up front to say, hey, is this a JavaScript file or a TypeScript file or one of the other like superscript, supersets of like file types, JSX, TSX, yada yada yada. I actually don't mind this. I think I might even have a preference to it, because this, if you don't need to do that resolution, that can be much faster. And I think it's more explicit, less potential gotchas there. Okay. React Player YouTube.js relative references must start with that. We can deal with that. So when we are doing an import, we should be importing from here and YouTube player.js. So that seems fine. Now, how am I importing JS? So I do just say that. I almost wonder if it should be this. But it's not liking that. I know some of this is it's an amalgamation of things. The dev setup on this is not amazing. When it works fine. But some of these errors can be more cryptic, especially if you're not used to dealing with this. And what this is effectively saying is when it's trying to load where would we see it? So like this module here is trying to load a web modules preact and see this right here is effectively like lazy loading too. One of many ways to handle that. I think we've got it in one of these somewhere. Scripts feedback, scripts, styles. One of these is importing here. Component, well, no, that's just setting like high level values. One of these scripts is doing the import, and effectively the import ends up being wrong for. Oh, interesting. So like this might technically end up being kind of a how React Player is bundling it, and it is not easy to publish things. Don't take this as criticism of React Player in general, but to get something published that works for everything, it is not an easy feat. We're gonna just check if this is working right now, and maybe we'll see if we can do the YouTube specific import in the future. I don't know why it's wrapping really weird here. Give this one more bump up. Maybe that'll help out. So I've got a post install hook that runs the ES install, which is going to rebundle and give us a React player.js. So that's why I'm running npm I, which is npm install. I'm basically just doing it to get that to reset. All right, object is not a valid HTML tag. That feels odd that I would need to do that. So how are they like bundling this? I mean, I could look at potentially how they're publishing it. And they've got multiple options. So we might be able to do, let's see. So we have aliases. So if we do React, we're actually pointing to this. we could potentially do something where we say, let's alias it and say if we are playing in React Player, we want React Player / YouTube. And then we'll see how that ends up mapping. We will need to again run npmi to give us a case install again. Hey, I see you. We have that there. This alias should give us, I think it's like an import map. I don't remember where that is. Shows up though. And effectively it's saying that if your code is saying, let's import from here, we're actually gonna like rewrite it to import from these. So we're still getting not a valid HTML tag. And if we would go ahead and refresh, oh. So it's not a Rickroll. My guess was wrong. Was that error there from before? That error might have been in there from before. I'm not sure what to think of that. I guess if it's working, we can deal with it for right now. There's also the lazy import. I don't know if we can do this maybe? Let's give it one more shot. And see how that goes. I'm wondering if the lazy import is bundled differently, which is why I am curious. So I guess there's not a lazy YouTube. I'm gonna assume that ES install is doing some like tree shaking anyways. So if we look at React Player lazy, I think this is in bytes, kilobytes. So almost 0.2 kilobytes. That might be fine. I'm wondering if the lazy import is actually going to be a little bit more ESM type compatible. That is really interesting. Object is not a valid HTML tag, but it works when we do it in the browser. Okay, come on, really? Stop. Green screen. Come here and say hi. All right. Well, this is working. I don't think sound is going to come through, which is fine. It is working. And we don't have any controls. Okay, so it looks like the default is false. So I'm gonna put on controls. I don't know if I have to do it this way. I'm guessing I have to do it this way. I'm gonna get rid of these. I can leave the console dialog in there for the props because we'll want to pass in props soon enough. Now if we hit play, yeah, we should get some controls, and it's also an embed, and depending on what I'm sending into, it's going to show you ads versus not. So if we go now to, let's go ahead and grab one of these videos. Here I can do my name. Hit the subscribe button. Okay. Copy. Close. Let's drop this in here. Okay. Seriously, come on. Just got a fascination with look at my green screen. I feel like this comes up every stream, but say hi. Not talkative today, or I can't hear because I got my headphones on. There we go. We'll see how it works with the live URLs. Curious. It could be, yeah. So the like the live or the share is different than that. I don't know. YouTube things, I guess. I'm guessing it's expecting this, and I don't know if that's actually a YouTube embed API sort of situation. Oh, I did it too fast here. There we go. Okay, so now we got some controls. We got that. Now let's see if we can get and play around with the tracks. We are gonna need a WebVTT file. And we do also have a couple states and whatnot in this component, which will potentially end up being nice, depending on how we want to do our integration. So like we've got some callback props here, and we can use those in filling out this page. Can play, and we can like jump to parts. So if we have a transcript of a video, we could potentially click on text and jump in the video to that piece of text there. Or, you know, where that transcript shows up in the video, we can jump there. Light player. This is kind of nice. Not 100% certain how that's gonna end up working out. And I don't know, so there's an expectation that there's an image there. I don't know that it's going to be easy enough for me to set that up, so the first shot is probably not going to use the light. But let's look at the tracks. We can do a config and set up a file with tracks. Let's look at a WebVTT. We are going to, it's very much not going to match up with the video that we have. But we're just going to grab a file and create a .vtt and try to get that loaded in quick. Nice MDN, nice. There's I believe two main types of files that are web/YouTube compatible. I think they do WebVTT, which is a .vtt, and there is what is the other one? WebVTT versus SRT. SRT, I think, is the other file format, and they're very similar. specs, you know how that goes. So it's if you have an SRT, it's not terribly involved to convert to VTT. The fidelity between them, I'm pretty sure you can go back and forth without losing anything. The syntax is just slightly different. But what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna say, I'm gonna straight up put it in static, so we don't need to think about it. And we're gonna say test web.vtt. We're gonna drop that there, and that should give us a file that we can load. I'm gonna double check that it is being pulled through. Well, I guess we don't even need to do that. We can look. It should show up in our public directory if we did it right. So test web.vtt. It's right at the root there. Now, if we pull in our config with the tracks, we should be able to say web test web.vtt, and language is English. Sure, default is true. Yep. I am curious what. So file implies that there's other ways we can do the import. We're not seeing any errors. These subtitles may be it's definitely not coming from the file. And it is using the iframe. Passing array of YouTube URLs to the, we'll load them. Okay, so we can make an untitled playlist. Interesting. So we can play file pass, and only then can we use the track. That's kind of unfortunate. So when we use a file, it is going to use the video embed, and that's when the track is going to be set. And that makes sense. Within YouTube, you can also do subtitles, and you can upload it. It asks you, it gives you a file to upload it, or it gives you an option to upload a file. There we go. Words are hard. So the unfortunate part there is we don't have that track set for. So we got events and whatnot. We don't have that track. We don't have the ability to set the track on the website. I think that's fine. I think I'm okay with that. Now, what we wanted to do with that was, let's see, display WebVTT as HTML. This is what we were just looking at, but it's talking about how to do it, and you can set it as a track, and you can set styling, queue timings, queue settings, and what can potentially get odd about this too. So it looks like in this video there aren't any ads. And I'm unsure if when we have an ad, if it's actually extending the size of the player. And part of this too is that this ends up using an iframe. So it's not It's not the video HTML tag like we had expected. So I guess ignore that part of the video title. maybe we play around with that in the future. Do we? YouTube. Does it have any extra like on unstarted or the video element one place? Okay. I am curious what this ends up giving us. Only note that automatic thumbnail fetching and ongoing for support for other URLs is not guaranteed. The light prop will render a video thumbnail with the simple play icon. So it looks like potentially we have the option to do light as like, rather than giving it a prop, yeah, we can set it to true. I'm curious if that's going to change the player. Light equals true. I might have refreshed too fast there. Yeah, so this actually does look like a different player, and now when I click it, it's going to load the player. What I'm going to do is I'm going to inspect the element. It is, I'm guessing, a clickable like link basically. So now if I click it, it's going to swap that out for the actual YouTube player, and it is still an iframe. So we're not going to be able to use the tracks, and TBD on if ads are going to mess it up. But if we can say, let's do React render WebVTT. If we can render a like WebVTT directly, we can do a bunch of text. And okay, this is not terribly up to date. Video.js. I don't know that this is something that I want to do either. I kind of think that I want to use the built-in, or the YouTube embed, rather than trying to do a video tag. So this, I'm presuming, is going to be, yep. And here they are doing the tracks like we were expected. So this is what the tag ends up looking like if we would use the file option in React Player and set the track in the config. And that ends up becoming captions that you can effectively on-demand style. So like these can all be different. I think they are setting it. Okay, so they straight up just embedded it, which might be something we want to just try for the moment. Yeah. And see here, like you can, within the queues, you can actually set, well, it's basically like ends up being like on-demand captioning instead of it being built into the player or like hard-coded into the thing itself. Or into the video itself, which is, what are they called? Burned in subtitles. Just CSS tricks. This whole setup is not. I only want functional cookies. Required cookies. Ugh. What can you do? What can you do? I don't like that that flow, but so there's options on how you can position and set it up. I don't know that there's value in getting that customized with it. And like you can style it and whatnot. I'm tempted to say let's use the built-in YouTube option because I suspect they're going to be able to make it more inclusive than I'm able to. Or at least with the amount of time that I'm able to like put into it. But what we do want to do is if we have this WebVTT file, if we are able to load it, and let's say we've got something now like a div that just has this as content. Let's go like this. We'll do backticks. There we go. It's gonna format a little bit nicer, I think. Let's get rid of our boop. Span gonna be better there? That's some weird default formatting that I have going on. I think I've got a text component that makes that look nicer. You're not gonna help me out, are you? Did it do the import correctly? Text. Yeah. I don't know if that's actually going to be the right import, but hey. What can we do? Okay, so it's not rendering the new lines. Not a big deal. But what we can do is, let's say, if we are able to process this and split this up, we're going to leave this here as like, this is the built-in option, and this is going to be like a processed option. I'm just going to put this here to signify that. We are going to copy this twice because what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus just on a specific string per section here. And we should be able to like reasonably parse this either ourselves or directly or by another library into something that effectively looks like this. And like these two pieces of text probably fine showing just as bullet points, and then in which case we want to take this and translate this into like clickable links. So that's fine. So then this ends up needing to be how do we want to do this? Do we call it a button, I guess? Button? How's that gonna look? Yeah. It shall work for the time being. I'm gonna go ahead and just do this and this so it formats a little bit nicer. And we're gonna pull this into here and do this. So now if we hook up these buttons to on-call handlers, we should be able to trigger the video to jump to those. Do I still have a boop in here somewhere? Are we getting booped? That looks like a boop. underneath the button there. Is that just me? Curious. I'm gonna leave the light player in there. I'm kind of curious how it is going to. Whoop, got a line. I'm curious how it's gonna end up handling the like button load events. So the React player has a handful of props that we can set. It has callback, and these events are fired when they happen. I don't see examples on how to use them, but we can say these would be like props, I believe, that you would set, and they would, when this happens, it's going to call a function. So we can use a ref to call instance methods on the player. So if we set up a React ref, that should give us the option to, from a function, trigger things to happen with this player. So if we say const player ref equals use ref, I think React has use ref, and then we can do I think we set ref equals this, if I'm remembering that setup correctly. So now we should be able to say here and go on click. What is that? HTML button element. Okay, interesting. We're going to execute a function. So first off, we're going to say, let's log a thing. And we're going to say hi. I'm going to add, well, I guess I don't need to have that copy and pasted. So when we click this first button, we should see in our console, our player has gone away. The requested module does not provide an export named useRef. Preact useRef. Now I don't know if I've got hooks pulled in or not. So we might need to ES install again to get that bundled in. That still is a little bit wonky there, but okay. Boom. We got that set. Now what we can do is we're gonna pull out a function and say seek player to timestamp, and we're going to do player ref and timestamp. Now we can say player ref dot, I think it's seek2, was that what it was? Seek2 amount and type. So we can seek to the given amount of seconds, and you can specify seconds or fraction. Or fraction if the amount is between 0 and 1. So we can seek to like halfway through the video. If we say 0.5 is how I'm reading that. And then we can override this like default expectation and have it only do seconds or only do fractions, regardless of what value we're passing in. And it was seek2. Now we can probably, I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm gonna straight up return this, and we're going to go like this again. And correct our or incorrect syntax rather. Now timestamp is going to be funky because we need to do some sort of conversion. So const seconds equals 2. And we are going to set this specifically to seconds because I don't want it to do the fractional option at the moment. We're going to ignore the timestamp and we're going to swap this to say seek player to timestamp, player ref, and we're going to say 10 seconds. Now, this is 10, and this is timestamp. This is all different than like what these are saying. So somehow we're going to need to take those and parse those into seconds. So if we go here, we are getting a type error. Seek2 is not a function. Player ref, seek player to timestamp. And where's our React player docs here? Use ref to call instance methods on the player. See the demo app. How do we do it? So here's all the events that we were talking about. On ready, you know. I'm actually going to throw these in here. We're not going to immediately, or probably in any case, make use of them. But it's nice as an indication when we're debugging. So here we've got a ref. It's doing a this.ref, which is saying ref is player, and player is, this is a really long example. Where's player coming from? So at some point it's assigning player to assigning a this.player as player. React player. Oh. Render load. So here, like they're using it right here. This step player.seek2 parse float. This is a class, which is why they have this references. So it's setting state. Is it setting it in the events? When it loads, are we doing like a set of player? I mean, it's really just doing this. We collapse this. Ah, nice. Okay. I do like the new. I've got they've got like a new code exploration thing within. Whoop. I don't want to go to my notifications. Feature preview, new code search, and code view. If this view looks different, if you're familiar with the GitHub search and code view thing, component, whatever you want to call this, the reason it looks potentially different than you're used to is because of that. I would recommend turning it on. I do like it, I think. So it doesn't seem like it's storing it in state at all. Where are we setting this? It's gotta be. It's gotta have a player around here somewhere. So we're setting this.ref. It It's taking a player and then okay. Ref. We're doing this.ref, so we're assigning the class this.ref to that function, which is that. So thereby player becomes the reference. Which is what I thought that should do. Preact this, no, preact use ref. Create ref. Use ref. Where's the ref? I don't see it used anywhere. Function on click. Looks like those docs darn. Curious. Use ref, input use ref, and then we do ref equals input, and then we should have an that's probably part of it here. Let's do a console.log player ref. I think I need to do player ref.current, which makes some sense. Let's go ahead and comment that out for the moment. .current, okay. So what we can say is return playref.current.c2, and I think we can do this because we're fine. If it doesn't exist, just skip and don't do the thing, at least for the moment. So now if we click, $37 and $38, it is actually executing those the moment. Do we do it that way? I don't know if I like binding. We'll just function calling a function. So now if we click it, now we get that. And now we get those. And we should have a seek2. And it doesn't seem like it's necessarily getting called. Oh no, I like reloaded it and the buttons overlapping. Can you see that? So it seems like we do need to start it. I'm gonna just move to like a way far off place. It doesn't seem like it is seeking to the seconds. It is logging and it is doing the React player. Fraction and type. If we just get rid of that for the moment, let's not do a return. Not getting any errors. There's the onReady and the onStart. The button click works, and it's not throwing an error, but it doesn't actually seem to be seeking to it, which is interesting. Get duration. We could probably throw some of these other things on here, and that will give us an indication that something here is working correctly. Let's say const player equals this, and we'll say player.get current time and let's log out the time and see that we're getting something here. And that should give us an indication that like the functions themselves are actually working, which it doesn't seem like they are. So something must be off with the reference. We are definitely getting the events. We are definitely getting the ref. We are getting everything that I would expect to see. But we're not getting any of the actual like function calls, which is odd. So let's take this out. We're going to end up logging out a bunch of things here. Let's log out the player. I think I am actually going to bind this. I don't know if that has something to do with it, but so now when you click this, it's literally executing just that function. And we should do the player get current time. Yeah, that's fine for now. So if we click this, it might be something with the light as well. On start, seek. Yeah, cannot read properties of undefined get current time. Interesting. And that might be something with this, which it's having issues with keeping that. And as much as I do like the light player, okay, cannot read properties of undefined. Object.seek player to timestamp. Okay. So if we do that, let's just make sure that we are getting any logs. Player and player.get current time. Let's split these logs up, because if we're getting an error on this player.get current time, I don't think we're going to see the actual log of the those function the object or the prototype values or what have you. Okay, so it is definitely undefined here. Now if we seek, still undefined. So whatever ref we're binding to initially, it is undefined. So if we do a function every time we click on it, it's going to use the updated definition, I believe, rather than the element that was bound to it when it was first created. So now we're not getting anything. Oop, because I'm binding. I want to actually call the function. We'll do a quick refresh here. Okay, now we're getting a React player and a null. React player and a null. On the React player, what do we have? We do have a get. What did I say? Get current time. So there is a get current time, but it's coming back null, which is interesting. Let's throw in a couple of these. So get current time, get seconds loaded, get duration. I would expect all of these to return null if one of them is. And let us confirm that something is going wonky there. Hopefully we can get this working here. I feel like we're pretty close. So they're all null. I've got a little bit of a hard stop. Maybe go for another 15 minutes or so. Why would that be null? So player there is null. There are the actual functions though that are showing up here. If we say playerref.current and we just call this player, I wonder how that's going to end up working. I think I'm using the ref correctly though. We are definitely getting an issue there though. So here, use ref. Ref equals input. There's two ways that we can set these up. There's the create ref and the use ref. If we are doing class, you'd use create ref. We are using a function component, so then we should use the hook. It seems like the hook's working because we're getting the values there. Our ref's current value will then be set to the HTML input element. Okay. And what we could potentially do is, so player is either going to be defined or undefined. So if it is, if player, then return. And now, when this runs, it should only run if that's defined. I mean, it is pretty clearly defined. The question is, why are none of the functions working? If we do like player.props, which appears to be defined there, is that even going to work? Okay, so the props are actually coming through fine. But the function calls are just not working. What video player did we end up? We are doing the lazy. I wonder if that has something to do with it. The lazy loading of it breaks the ref, which is kind of interesting. I'm effectively lazy loading everything right now anyways. lazy loading. So the lazy loading was, so what we're doing here, we are bundling the React Player YouTube into a web modules component that we can then import. So if we import React Player YouTube.js, then we will get just the YouTube player. And then I'm doing an alias. Basically, if anywhere we do an import of React Player, we're actually going to get the YouTube one. We're not using the lazy loading API because we're effectively already lazy loading. So we don't really need to think about that. Or I mean, we've already taken it into consideration. It's not that we're not thinking about it. We've already effectively used lazy loading. We just don't need to use their API to make it happen. So now we should be able to click this and it seeks right to it. There we go. So now if we go, let's go to 100 seconds. Well, let's see. We'll try 2000. I don't know what that's going to happen to offhand. But we should be able to do this. There we go. It should have gone to more than that. Yeah, okay, here we go. 33 minutes. That does sound right. And this is an immediate seek. So if we haven't started it, it's going to just start loading from there. Nice. Now, is there a play? Because we want to both seek and then get. So we want to seek and get, can play. So if we seek, it's going to fire this event on progress. And like this callback here is where we can potentially use highlighting. So we can, as it's playing, update the state of the component, and we could potentially have like live transcript sort of thing going on here. That might be something we play around with throughout in the future. But I think for now we basically just get the embed up on our site here and start doing the transcripts and start working through that for a little bit. And eventually, I think after we get through some Rust and some Tauri stuff again, I think we'll potentially come back to this and play around with it some more. Now, I don't see a way that we can like make it play immediately. Is there auto play? I thought I saw. They must be muted. Please set. Some players like Facebook cannot be unmuted until the user interacts with the video. Cloud when the state changes some started. I don't see an autoplay. Set to true or false to play or pause the media. So can we on play, on ended, get duration. So if we're doing, if we just say playing, can we like literally change the props here? And the reason I'm curious is when we click this button to start playing. If we click this, it pauses it, which I'm not a huge fan of. So if we say player.props.playing equals true, interesting. It is doing some buffering, but it doesn't seem to. I do actually have to hit play again. I guess I'm okay with that. If somebody would click this, they want to be able to see. Yeah, I'm okay with that. What time we got? A couple more minutes. Let's see if we can do the opposite. As we were playing, if we can get like the current timestamp effectively. And we're gonna have to have something to convert between the timestamp references in WebVTT back and forth to direct seconds, but that is completely manageable. So this plane doesn't work, and me just modifying the props directly here is not working. I presume there's potentially another way to do it, but I'm actually kind of okay with it. So on seek, on progress, callback containing played and loaded progress as a fraction, and played seconds and loaded seconds in seconds. Ready, on play, on start. So if we say const player state equals use state, we are going to have just an empty player state. And now we can say on progress, pretty sure this works the same, set player state. Whoop, whoop. Can I do that? I don't remember. Set player state. I'm questioning if I can do that. But div json dot stringify player state null to this. Div is fine for the moment. There we go. So now that is on every so many ticks, we're going to see our loaded seconds and our played seconds. So it looks like every second or so we get an update, which is probably fine. And then we could use that to sync up with kind of the highlighting of the text, and we can show where within the text we are. There's also the played, so that's a percentage, which that's actually a really big number. Or that's a small number because our seconds is really big. So us having played almost a minute pales in comparison to the 60 times 90, I guess, for an hour and a half. All right, I think we've got a solid start on this. We went through the React player npm component. We found that if we're going to use the YouTube embed, it is using the iframe YouTube API embed object and not the video element, so we can't set the tracks. That's not the end of the world because we can still within YouTube upload an SRT file, and we can then use that same SRT file and off of it or in tandem with it create a WebVTT file, which we can then start to parse, convert it into basically clickable timestamps to where we can click something and seek to it. I guess that button doesn't do anything right now, so we can seek right to it. And then on the flip side of it, as the video is playing, we're going to get updated states. And that updated state we can feed back into this chunk of text that is our timestamps to, or our transcript to show where within the text we are in the video. So we can essentially have them mash up. And the value in all of this is that when I have a video and I put it on my site, it then becomes a searchable element. I mean, you know, SEO and whatnot is nice, but like we can actually make that searchable eventually via like Melee search or Algolia or something of that sort. Ideally, in my case, whatever is going to be easiest. And now somebody can search, reach this video, find a piece of text, click the text, and be immediately to that point in the video where that context is. And you can seek back and forth to watch parts of the video from there. And I think that's going to be nice. If even just for like knowledge development, I guess. Like there's things that we bring up on stream or talk about, and being able to like get back to them easily or link to it or you know, review that without having to go through hours and hours of backlog, I think can be very helpful. So we've got was sort of a spike started out. We have a potential plan. Some of this is going to require polishing off some of the workflows I have to get it to this point where I can consistently do this. But I think it's pretty cool once we do. So nice. That's where we're going to end it today, though. Got things to do. I'm going to keep up with the Tuesday stream at this time for the foreseeable future. I'm going to likely keep streams to hour and a half. We ran over just a little bit on this one, not too bad though. Rather than the like 3 hour, you know, big chunks that we've been doing. And I think we're gonna have a better time. And that should also hopefully give me the rest of the week to sort of come back to and create more succinct, concise videos of things, if that's how you would prefer to view some of this content. It'll probably be, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 streams, and all of the value from those can be, you know, put into a concise chunk of 10-20 minute video or something. And having a good chunk of the rest of the week to be able to do that, rather than immediately hitting the weekend, I think is going to be very helpful for my workflow. So hopefully this works for everybody. Hopefully it works out nice. And also I am hopeful that it'll make it easier to bring in guests, because when we get into more Tori stuff again, I kind of want to do a couple guests. We have for sure, I've spoke to Jonas and we want to eventually figure something out. I think I would like to get some of the Tari folk doing some stream stuff. I think it would be fun. But future. For now, not happy Friday. So it's Tuesday. If you're watching in the middle of the week, you got the whole rest of your week to go, right? So have a good rest of the week. I'll see you next time. Bye.